Hey there, guys. Welcome to Dirt Road Believer. I am Tina, creator of Dirt Road Believer. And if you're here, obviously you have found my YouTube channel, so welcome. I also encourage you to visit my Facebook group. Every day on Dirt Road Believer Facebook group, I have daily inspiration in the faith as well as these videos and articles and things that just keep you going in your walk with the Lord. So I'm glad you're here today. It's February now, the month of love. So we are going to be talking about the home. What are the best practices that God has taught me through His Word, through life, through experiences that create a happy home? So I want to start today with 2 Peter 1:3. It says, His divine power has given us everything required for life and godliness through the knowledge of Him who has called us by His own glory and goodness. God gives us what we need. He does not want us walking around miserable and in, situations from day to day that cause anxiety and stress, especially not in our homes. So He gives us the knowledge. When we seek Him, He gives us the knowledge how to create and maintain these atmospheres of peace and happiness within our homes. So that's what I want to share with you today. So many homes that I hear from and hear about, and obviously on the news, we get a sense that there is this very high level of anxiety within homes among spouses, among parents and children, and outside influences obviously factor in. But this high level of anxiety and stress is just a breeding ground for disaster. And so it is up to us to help with this and to help maintain this. Let's look now at 2 Peter. We're still in 2 Peter 2:19. I'm going back and forth between my notes and my Bible. So let's look at 2 Peter 2:19 before we get into this. It says, They promise them freedom, but they themselves are slaves of corruption, since people are enslaved to whatever defeats them. And sadly, within the home, even Christian homes, we become a slave to what controls us. And we allow the circumstances, the pressures to control that environment within our home instead of the other way around. We actually have a say in the atmosphere of our homes. And so today we're going to look at this in 3 parts. I'm so excited about today's study because you're going to get some very powerful, impactful scripture that is going to lead you in your marriage, in your home, with your children. And I think by the end of today, you're going to feel a little more empowered in how you do have influence over the peaceful atmosphere within your home. So let's get started. We're going to break this down in 3 parts: marriage, home, and children. So let's start with marriage. Okay, the peace, love, and life that we have a hand in shaping within our home starts with the marriage. How we react to each other, how our children see us reacting, that influences them greatly. And if there is an agitation there, obviously things don't go smoothly all the time. There will be agitation from time to time, but for that to be a constant stressor can be very harmful within the family and within the home. And so again, this is best practices for me, things that God has taught me. So I'm hoping that it'll reveal some things to you as well. So we know that the marriage is going to be tested. You're going to be tested with your relationship with each other. There are outside factors within the home that test and put pressures on both of us, work, friendships, all that stuff. So I want to address outside influences in the marriage. And in my marriage, God has shown me the importance of faithfulness I want to be the wife that is always going to be there to show up and to show that, hands down, this marriage is something I'm going to be faithful to. And so at times during a marriage, there are some outside factors that can threaten that. And one of the things that God has been so kind in showing me is, don't let it fester. Don't ignore things and let them just compound. And what I mean is, I've seen a lot of people who will, there'll be an inappropriate comment from someone of the opposite sex, or a private conversation, or, a joke even. And they dismiss it as, oh, well, they're just being nice, or they're just concerned, or, they were just kidding. I do not do that in my marriage. If I feel any sort of kink in my spirit, that, there's been a conversation with a male, or they've made a joke, or, just said, one example is, a male friend of both my husband and I just kind of started casually dropping, love ya, love ya, love ya. And I was like, I'm not okay with that. Like, I don't like that. And so what do I do with that? I don't ignore it. I don't dismiss it. I bring it straight to my husband and say, look, this took place, or this person said this. And from that point, we either talk about it and, that's that. Or, there have been times that he goes and addresses it with that individual. Or I have said, look, I'll address it with that individual. And then we come back and talk about how it was addressed. But too many times you see marriages end because someone has let something ride. They've ignored that it is a danger to the marriage, and they just allow it to go on, and as it grows and grows. So I want to look at James. This is James 1:15 and 16, because this goes to the heart of what I'm talking about. There is a progression to sin. A woman or a man doesn't just, automatically, hey, I just want a divorce, and, that's the end of this. Something has happened, and it has been a progression of events that you've allowed to go on too far. So James 1:15 and 16 says, then after desire has conceived, it gives birth to sin. And when sin is fully grown, it gives birth to death. Don't be deceived, my dear brothers and sisters. Every good and perfect gift is from the Lord. So we know that marriage is a gift from the Lord, right? And when we allow ourselves to be enticed by an evil desire, everyone's tempted, right? But then not only that, but you let that desire be conceived. And once it gives birth to sin, you see where we're going. There's a progression. So my best practice in marriage that I can share with you is, don't give the devil a foothold. Don't let any seemingly innocent conversation, or a joke or a snide remark, don't let it go. Go straight to your spouse and tell them about it. And then there's no threat there. Okay, you have disarmed the threat. All right, let's go to home. Okay, home. Having peace within your home. That is absolutely an area of your life that you can shape. And as we said, it starts with your marriage, your relationship there. But just having a home that is inviting, that people enjoy, that your kids like to come home to. There's no, I'm going to have to deal with this, or, they want to get out of the house. They want to come home. Your spouse wants to come home. You want to enjoy time together. So how do we shape this atmosphere of peace? I'm going to start with, we're going to be in 1 Peter and Proverbs, if you want to get there, just to, book over from James, where we just were. But let's first read 1 Peter 3:11. 1 Peter 3:11 says, "And let him turn away from evil and do what is good. Let him seek peace and pursue it. Because the eyes of the Lord are on the righteous and his ears are open to their prayer." Let me say that again. I went into 12 just a little bit. Let him seek peace and pursue it. Seek peace. How do we seek peace? You're going to hear this term called the peaceful pivot. I'm going to use that a few times, okay? So peace is something you have to work for. And in another translation, it says, search for peace and work to maintain it. I feel like that's more appropriate to the home. You search for peace, and when you figure out ways to achieve it, you also have to work to maintain it. So we're searching for this peaceful home. We have a picture in our mind of what it is, what we want it to be like, but it doesn't come naturally. It is actually work. And then once you figure out how you can achieve that peace, then you work to maintain it. So one of the ways that I have figured out how to shape this atmosphere of peace within my home is the peaceful pivot. And I'll explain what that means in a little bit. I was very saddened by a little student who came up to me, very young student who came up to me this week, and I think I commented on her outfit. Anyway, her mind went to who dressed her that morning. And she said that she hates it when her mommy and daddy fight, and that she went to her grandmother's the night before so that she didn't have to hear them fighting. And it just absolutely broke my heart. I commented on her outfit. She thought of who put this outfit on me this morning, and that reminded her of her parents fighting. And I thought, I never want the kind of home where my kids are darting out the door to get away from a home that is in turmoil, that is in a state of anxiety all the time. So we can absolutely shape this atmosphere, but it's very important that the parents are invested in shaping this atmosphere. Let's back up a little bit and look at 1 Peter 3:9 through 11. Not paying back evil for evil or insult for insult. On the contrary, give a blessing, since you were called to do this, so that you may inherit a blessing. For the one who wants to love life and to see good days, let him keep evil from his tongue and his lips from speaking deceit. Let him turn from evil and do what is good. This is the peaceful pivot right here, guys. This is not easy to do, but it is paramount in maintaining peace. Remember, it says, on the contrary, like when you are insulted in your home, if a spouse insults you, peaceful pivot. You insulted me. Okay, peaceful pivot. Blessing. Let's see, let him keep his tongue from evil. So if someone in your home says something that you feel like is deceitful or evil, then you what? Peaceful pivot, do the opposite. Don't return insults for insults. That only creates an atmosphere of tension and anxiety, which is not what you want. Oftentimes, if you're seeking after peace and you're working to maintain it, the peaceful pivot is what you have to do. Another thing that I have learned about being a wife in a home that is peaceful comes from Proverbs. Let's turn to Proverbs, and we're going to be in chapter 27. Listen to what Proverbs says about a wife. In 27:15 and 16, it says, "An endless dripping on a rainy day and a nagging wife are alike. The one who controls her controls the wind, and grasps oil with his right hand. An endless dripping. How many of you have ever just had that constant noise that just infuriates you and drives you nuts? That's what a nagging wife is like. And then 25:24 in Proverbs says, better to live on the corner of a roof than to share a house with a nagging wife. As a wife, it is not our job to pick, nag. There's going to be a pivot from you, all right. They're going to be on the corner of the roof instead of enjoying the house with you. So our words, the power of the tongue is life and death. We can speak words of life. We can speak words of death. We can be someone who comes alongside, or we can be someone who tears down and nags. That is not an environment that is going to create a peaceful and loving home that you really want. And the thing about being peaceful and not returning an insult for an insult, and not nagging when you see something that you really think needs to be nagged on, is you never get that feeling of justification that you want. You never get to be right. You never get to bite back and defend yourself. Yep, that's Jesus. That's exactly how Jesus behaved when he was in this world. He was not out for justification. He was not out for feeling like he was in the right, because he knew that one day all of that would be taken care of, and it wouldn't matter anymore whether I was right. It just won't matter anymore. And so that's how we work to maintain a peaceful home. Remember that term, peaceful pivot. You'll read about it a lot in the Bible, and you'll see it a lot when you read about the life of Jesus in the Gospels. All right, that brings us to our third topic of best practices for a happy home, which is our children. Don't fight with your children. They're your children. I think this week I have a post that said, Christian parents should never fight with their children. We should be fighting for our children. In other words, we should be on our knees and in our Bibles fighting the spiritual battle for our children instead of fighting with them. Let's look at a few. I've got a little 3-step thing here that I kind of subscribe to, and that I feel like God has given me best practices for. One is trust their training. My kids are a little older now, so I'm having to trust the training that I gave them in the Lord. Stepping back, not waiting for them to fail or getting on to them. I'm kind of at the point now, Lord, I'm trusting you. I have implanted in them the things that you taught me to teach them. And so now I'm having to trust my training and treat them as though they're going to respond to the Lord, and they're going to make the good decisions that I taught them about. Ephesians 6:4, it says fathers, but we could say fathers and mothers and parents. Don't stir up anger in your children, but bring them up in the training and instruction of the Lord. It's not our job to frustrate our kids or, constantly tell them that they're failing, they're not doing right. This says train them up in the Lord, and then step back little at a time and begin to trust that training. So he's shown me that it means a lot to my children, and it speaks of how well I think of them when I step back and I trust their training. And I'm there more in the role of, instead of me going to them with all of my training that I did for years and years, stepping back, because guess what? They're going to come to me. And I had a conversation recently with my youngest son, and he'd been involved in something, and we were just talking about it. And after he heard my takeaway and the way I viewed it, he had not thought of it that way. But he knew when he heard it, instead of bucking up and us fighting about it, or, instead of him trying to argue with me, he was like, I hadn't thought of it that way. Yeah, you're right. You're right. Those are the kind of conversations we have, because I'm trusting on the training. I'm trusting that he is going to see things in the way that he has been trained up in godly ways. All right, let's move on to my second best practice when it comes to my kids. We don't fight, okay? We just do not fight. I'm going to talk to them. I'm going to listen to them. I'm going to give them my best, but we don't raise our voices. We don't, get all up in arms about anything. Let's look at Proverbs 15, verses 1 and 2. A gentle answer turns away anger, but a harsh word stirs up wrath. The tongue of the wise makes knowledge attractive, but the mouth of a fool blurts out foolishness. When we are dealing with our children, gentle answers. There's no reason to stir things up when they're looking to us for guidance. They won't look long if every time they come to us, we're using harsh words. Use a wise tongue and make knowledge look attractive, just like that conversation I was just telling you about. When he saw when he heard my input and he saw, how I thought about it through more experienced eyes, he respected that. And he said, you're right, I hadn't thought of it that way. So be gentle in the way that you speak to your children. Children and their parents should never fight. And if they do, that's on the parent every single time. Proverbs 18:21. We talked about the power of the tongue is life and death. So let's look at Proverbs 18:21. And obviously we should not just be speaking gently and not arguing with our children, but speaking words of life. 18:21 says, I'm almost there. One more page. Death and life are in the power of the tongue, and those who love it will eat its fruit. It's up to us, wives and husbands, to shape the atmosphere in our homes. And the way we're shaping is going to very much influence and determine the homes of our children when they have families. Are they maintaining peace? Do they even know what that's like? Oftentimes, when children are brought up in homes where there's arguing and fighting and, it's just constant anxiety and stress, then their homes are the same because you're controlled by it, right? Homes like that control the individual instead of the individual working to control and shape that environment. We're going to end back in 1 Peter where we started. This is 1 Peter 1:15, and it says, "But as the one who called you is holy, you also are to be holy in all of your conduct. For it is written, be holy because I am holy." Guys, a lot of us look real holy outside of our homes, but when we come home, that holiness is not sought after or maintained. And so if you want a peaceful and happy home where people come for respite and just love and joy, speak words of life. Be someone who can do the peaceful pivot, who can turn from a comment or a feeling that you get and react in a way that is congruent to holiness instead of, that knee-jerk reaction. Guys, I hope you've gained a lot from today. The Lord has been kind and given me some best practices over the years in my home, through my marriage, with my children. And so I thought I would pass those along to you. I hope you have a wonderful first week of February, and I'm going to see you again here next week. Don't forget, every Thursday there's an article that comes out on Dirt Road Believer Facebook group. So if you haven't already joined that, do so. Have a wonderful day. See you next week. And until then, slow down. Take the dirt road, believer.